Good morning. The Tuesday, October 8th, 2020 Board of County Commissioners meeting will come to order. We start every meeting off with the invocation and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Today, the invocation is going to be performed by Darren Melligan. Did I say that correctly? I hope so. If you'd like to participate, please rise.
Thank you, sir. Father, we come today. We thank you so much for just allowing us to conduct business and conduct life. We ask for your wisdom and insight as they face the challenges during this time. We thank you for their experience, for their servant heart, for what they do. We ask that you bless their families and keep them safe, as well as all our entire county. Father, we ask that you would continue to give them direction as they make decisions. We thank you so much for all that you've given to us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And please join Greg DiGrando, the PIO for the Regional Building Department, as he leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It's so nice to have people here to pick on. Item number 3.
Item number 3, staff emergency items.
Do we have any staff emergencies today? All right, item number 4.
Item number 4, changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. I'm unaware of any changes or postponements. The next meeting would be October 13th, next Tuesday.
All right, item number 5.
Item number 5, comments by elected officials and commissioner liaison reports. I know we have clerk and recorder Chuck Browerman here to give an update.
Yeah, let's do 5A before we get to the commissioners.
5A then, clerk and recorder update, Chuck Browerman, clerk and recorder, good morning.
Chairman Waller, County Commissioners, election is upon us. After a lot of planning and preparation, ballots will be going out this next Friday, so the 9th. So we're ready to go. So we did our logic and accuracy test last week. We ran nearly 11,000 ballots through each of our 8 tabulation pieces of equipment. And why the 11,000 or just a few ballots short of 11,000 is that was every possible commutation of votes that could be passed. We have 20 presidential candidates, so every combination of that and all the other subsequent votes, so that we ever exercise every possible combination, assure that it was correct, and we passed. All 8 of those machines passed with 100% accuracy. Those machines were then sealed, and they're in a room that's not connected to the outside world. Their access to that room is monitored and has cameras, and so that we are ready to go, and we can trust that the results that we get from those machines on election night will be true. Ballots will be going out at the end of this week on the 9th. We'll have 425,846 ballots. That will change between now and then because every day we're adding several hundred voter registrations, so that will increase. I think probably we'll see another 10 or 15,000 citizens register to vote between now and Election Day. Of that 425,000, 178,000 are unaffiliated, Republican 157,000, and Democrats that are registered over that will be receiving ballots at the end of the week are almost 90,000. So we drop them in the mail stream at Fountain Inn Academy on Friday morning at 8 o'clock. I suspect people will start seeing them as soon as Saturday, with Monday being Columbus Day is still recognized as a federal holiday for the Postal Service. So people will not be getting mail on Monday. I suspect the balance of people will get their ballots on that Tuesday or Wednesday.
Are those registration numbers changing at all, or are they representative of what we've seen in the past in terms of percentages?
It is staying about the same. Maybe a slight increase in unaffiliates, but it's on about the same track we've been seeing for the last year or so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. After we get done with the election, we'll be doing canvass on November 6th, pending the Secretary of State's designation, and then we'll be also doing our risk limiting audit, where we verify everything in a very rigorous way that our election was done properly mid-December. So we'll be almost Christmas time before we finalize this election. Next week, we'll be opening one voter service and service center that will be at Citizen Service Center. Actually, that's been open for people to vote already. People who are going to be out of the area or have a special need or requirement can come in and vote. We make ballots available as soon as military and overseas ballots are sent out. So we've had approximately 300 people that are already come in and got a ballot over the counter and either voted it and gave it back to us or took it home to consider. So that 300 people that have already voted is significantly more than any other year. Usually that first week or two when we have that capability, you might see a dozen or so. So definitely a lot of interest by people to vote and to vote early. So we definitely want to encourage that. So if anyone out there in the audience there says, hey, I want to vote today rather than wait until Saturday or early next week to get their ballots, you can come to our Citizen Service Center on the second floor and obtain your ballot. Phase 2 VSPC will open on October 19th, and we will have 7 locations. We'll have our North Motor Vehicle office that will be open. We'll have our Southeast or our Powers and Airport office open. Our motor vehicle office on Fort Carson, here at Centennial Hall, Chapel Hills Mall, Citadel Mall, and then at UCCS at the Fine Arts Center, Performing Arts Center there. And then our Phase 3 VSPC will open on Friday, October the 30th. That is 4 days before the election. We'll open 14 additional locations. You see the hours there. We'll be open Friday from 8 to 5, Saturday from 8 to 5. So extended opportunities for people to vote on Saturday that can't do that in person if they would like during the weekday. And then Monday, we will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that's different than most counties in the state that are open from 8 to 5. We are going the extra mile and going from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the Monday before Election Day. And then Election Day, of course, we're open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But if you're in line at 7 p.m., you will be able to vote. And then finally, our Phase 4 VSPCs will open 13 additional locations. That'll be on the last 2 days of the election, Monday and Tuesday. So we'll have a total of 35 locations that were open. Here's for a historical basis. In 2014, we had 25 vote centers that was open, 2 more than what we were statutorily required to have, 23. In 2016, our last presidential election, we had 25, which again was 2 more than what we were required by law. We always go a little more than what we're required. And then 2018, that requirement went up a little bit to 25 because of voter registration numbers, but we went and had 3 more open than what we were required in 2018. And then 2020, we have 35 that will be open. That is 3 more than what we are required to have.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure, Commissioner Williams.
So yesterday, I did get a drop-off at my house from a political party said that I had to turn all of my ballots in at locations that were 10 to 15 minutes away from me drive time. East Library, UCCS, none of the polling locations. I happen to have 2 drop boxes since I've loaned my car to my son. 2 boxes within a walking distance, 15 minutes, the Clerk and Recorder's North Service Center, and also the 21C Library. I can walk to that one within 3 minutes. And then when the Voter Service Center opens up at Chapel Hills Mall, that's another, 6 or 7 minute walk. I can walk to church even at the moment. So I'd just like to point out to fellow citizens that you can go to EPC Votes, or you can look on your mail ballot itself. You do not have to go to the East Library to drop off your ballots. And if you get a mailing that says you have to, no matter from what organization, just make sure you check your ballot first, because you don't have to drive to the mega box at East Library to drop off your ballot. Thank you.
Commissioner Williams, that is probably takes a large amount of our bandwidth in our office, is the incorrect information. I hope it's not misinformation, but people are meaning to do well and putting out information that is not always correct. The trusted source of information for this election is not Facebook, it's not YouTube, it's not Twitter, and it's not necessarily some of the mailings that are out there. Probably well-intended, but the trusted source is your clerk and recorder, whether you live here or in another county. Your trusted source of information for voting options, hours, locations, drop-off locations is your clerk and recorder. And you can go to our site at epcvotes.com, or you can Google our office, El Paso County Clerk and Recorder. Make sure you put Colorado, because sometimes if you go El Paso County, it might take you to El Paso, Texas. So we are the trusted information.
Drive to Texas.
So yes, so be careful what information you get from it. It may and may not be factual. So thank you, Commissioner Williams. So from the last presidential election, we've increased the number of VSPCs by 152%. So we've expanded our capacity so that we can do a better job for our citizens and keep wait times low and make it more accessible for citizens all throughout the county. Approximate drive times, you see there, we make it just extremely easy for people to vote, and we use GIS to locate our vote centers and our drop boxes so they're within a short distance of people to be able to vote. You see the 90% cumulative range there, 5 to 7 minutes. So 5 to 7 minutes or less, we have 383,000 of the 425,000 people that will get ballots that will be within 7 minutes or less. So we do a great job at citing these things and making it easy for people to vote and making it a short distance, as you said, Commissioner Williams. If you go to our website, there's probably something just a short little distance, often maybe even walking distance from you. Our VSPCs, we've expanded capacity, so not only added the number of locations, but our ability. And even in COVID, where we have to have the greater social distancing, we've expanded significantly. So we will have 316 intake stations. Those are stations where we'll receive you and check your registration or register to vote if you haven't already done so. And you can see the comparison. In 2018, we had 166 intake stations. Back in the last presidential election, 146 locations. So we have a little over a 200% increase in the availability or the throughput for our citizens to go through. And then when you come to vote at our vote centers, we will hand you a paper ballot if you request it, and nearly everyone does. And that paper ballot is important because we can always go back and trace the votes based on that paper ballot. While we will scan that and the scanner will digitally interpret that mark, we always have that source document, that root document on paper to go back and reference. In 2016, we had 24 of these print-on-demand printers, so just about one for every vote center, and we now have 56, so we have often 2 of those. So if one is inoperable because we're changing out a print cartridge or there's a jam or something, we have another one that can keep on printing so that we keep the flow through our vote centers going. And then total voting opportunity hours, 1,487. So the number of hours that citizens have that they can vote over the next 3 weeks is just incredible. The number of opportunities. I'm encouraging people not to wait to the last day. If you want to vote in person, I do encourage you, because of COVID and because of how easy we make it for you to vote in the safety and security of your home and keep yourself and your neighbors and family protected, to vote that mail-in ballot. I can't urge any more than to, ask our citizens to utilize that resource, that convenience that we give. But if you do feel that I need to vote in person, don't wait until the last day. Don't wait until that Monday either. We have hundreds and thousands of hours before that you can avail yourself and won't have the lines you have to manage. Additional drop boxes, we've added 19 in the last year for a total of 37, and those are the locations there. Our most recent one that we added is at the Southgate Mall, which is near Chipotle and where the old Gorman's shop was. It's now, I think, a Halloween store for costumes, so it's right near there, and we have a solar panel on it, so we went green there because we couldn't get power to it, so it was an opportunity to use that technology, so it's well lit and it's got a camera. We're at 1st and Main, the Falcon Fire Department. Station 3, we used to be at Station 1. We're going to Station 3. We used to be at Station 1, and that's because of the construction on Meridian Road. So a couple miles north, still on Meridian Road, is the new drop box until they get done with construction at that intersection. We're at the Boot Barn, which is near Bass Pro Shop. We're Bear Creek Park. We're at Colorado Springs Senior Citizen, Cottonwood Creek Recreation Center, Leon Young Sports Complex, Rocky Mountain Calvary, Vista Grande Baptist Church, Wilson Ranch Pool, Citadel Mall, and School District 3 Federal Credit Union. Those are the new ones that we've added in addition to the 16 we had before. Here again, just like the VSPCs, a short distance from your home, 7 minutes or less. We have 92% of our population, which is also 383,000 of our citizens within just a few minutes of a VSBC. And this is historically what we've done in our drop boxes, what we've had. In 2012, we had 2. 2014, 12. The last presidential election, 2016, we had 15. 2 years ago, we had 16, and today we have 37. So that's a 231% increase in drop boxes from the November general election in 2016. But I will also add that our vote centers, our VSPCs, all have a box inside the location. They have a silver box. You can drop it off. So between the 35 vote center locations and these drop boxes, we have 72 locations where you can vote. A couple important topics. The UPS, United States Postal Service, sent out a mailer a few weeks ago with incorrect information. It was well-meaning, and there was a lot of good information, but some of the terminology was not correct for the method that Colorado votes. But I just want to tell people, I have great confidence in our partners at the United States Postal Service. The officials at the General Mail facility here and the letter carriers do a great job. I have great confidence in them. They've been a dependable ally in the past 12 elections as we went to this modified mail-in voting system. So I trust they will do so again this year. So I do encourage people to have that confidence in the Postal Service. They will do us well. Other services we're offering for our citizens is ballot tracks. So On September 14th, people that had given us their email, they were automatically signed up to ballot tracks. And what that does, it lets you know where your ballot is. So when we mail ballots out on the 9th, you will get either an email or text message, depending on what you opted in for, that will let you know your ballot's been put in the mail stream and is on its way. And then when you drop off your ballot, either at the Postal Service or at a drop box, it will be scanned and it will show that we've received it. And then once it gets through signature verification, processing, and tabulation, once we've tabulated your ballot, you will get another message saying, we've tabulated. You can rest assured and comforted that your vote has been recorded. And then finally, if someone forgets to sign the back of their ballot envelope or it's not readable, there is a way that you can cure that signature. We will send you a letter saying that we couldn't make out your signature or you forgot that signature, so we will send you a letter, and there will be a paper form in that envelope saying, hey, if you sign this and return this, we will be able to count your ballot. You can also scan that and email that form back to us, or we also have a smart app that will allow you to cure your signature via a smart app. So that's another convenience that we are offering citizens, to be able to cure your signature if there's a discrepancy and make sure your vote is counted. And then finally, you know, we have the most secure system in the country. I know there's a lot of talk out there about mail balloting, and I know there's other states that are rushing to it, but we've done this. We've got this down. Your vote will count. We just ask you to cooperate and work with us. We make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. You can trust the mail service. You can trust us to tabulate your vote correctly. So, you know, use that ballot that has been mailed to you and return it back as soon as you have made a decision on those. You have confidence in us. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Just put your head down, avoid the chaos, block out the noise, and cast your vote, and then you can know confidently from our services that we have recorded your vote. And with that, any questions?
Do we have any questions for the clerk and recorder? Commissioner Vanderwoord.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the great presentation, and of course, I have an interest in saying everybody needs to exercise the right to vote. GoVoteColorado.gov is the place to do that. You can certainly go into one of your centers as well and take care of that, but the website helps get everybody there. But I do have a specific question, because I know in the past, the software that the state had been using was taking a long time to process votes at our voting stations. And that, I don't remember what the numbers were, but it was something like sometimes 4 to 7 minutes, and there are other states that have been able to build software that was 10 or 30 seconds, and that actually caused backups at the voting stations. Is that issue resolved?
It is in partial. We do know it's a bit quicker. We were able to see that in the primary election. You know, about 30 seconds quicker. What it will be under loads and demands in November, we haven't been able to replicate that, and we won't know until that happens. So that's another reason I encourage you is to do this early. If you must vote in person, to do it early, because there will be a heavy load on the system on Election Day. Avoid the lines. Even though we've added tremendous capabilities and capacity, you know, do yourself a favor. Whether you're going to the motor vehicle office, don't wait until the last day. Whether you're going to vote, don't wait till the last day. You know, do that early. We have many hours of opportunities for you to do it. Commissioner Vanderwoord, there has been improvements made, but I think the shortness of time, they haven't been able to do all that they want. So I think we can personally alleviate some of that is by voting early.
Okay, great. And one other quick question. I know that some states we're aware that they have statutes that say they will not count any of the votes until Election Day, and I know that Colorado is not that, but just for the record, perhaps you could make a comment or two about that.
Yes, many states have it in their statute that they can't start tabulating the vote until Election Day. Under our state statutes, we can do that 15 days in advance, and we will be taking that luxury of that extra time because we have to socially distance. So I could wait until day 7 or day 10 to do that, but back other years, I have 75 people in our processing area, but I can't have them that close there. I don't want to risk them. So we have people, adequately distanced, and we have about 35 people. So we need to do more hours to do that. We need to do that ahead of time. So we will be taking advantage of that rule in statute and starting to do that tabulation, doing that signature verification. But for everyone to know, those results go into an accumulator that's locked away. We won't know the results until election night. Typically, I like to start reporting results shortly after 7 o'clock because usually the VSBCs are closed shortly after 7 o'clock. But I envision that there will be lines and there will be people that are waiting to cast a vote, and I will be waiting until those people have voted. So it might be an hour or two after that I begin to report because I don't want to affect their decision until they've, I don't want to report those results until they're in the polls and have voted. So we may see a little bit of a departure from in the past when we report those numbers, just out of respect for those voters that are still in line, still casting a vote.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams.
So I just have one more question. If you were in line by 7 o'clock on the day of the election, you still get to vote?
Yep.
I do remember the last presidential election working at the hazardous waste facility, which was also a voter service center, and coming out and not being able to get my car out of the parking lot. I will tell our nice facilities people I drove over the landscape. So the key thing is you don't have to wait till 5 o'clock. You can actually go a week or two before if you want to vote. It does take time if you're going to vote in person, so make sure you don't have to get out there. But I would expect again to have that line on that last day, because I remember coming out and there were 25 people in line waiting outside to go in. So just to encourage people to try and get out and vote early.
Yeah, Commissioner Williams, that center we retained as a vote center, but it's a very small one, and small vote centers can get overwhelmed pretty quick, right, with more than a handful of people. So we've added another vote center nearby. It's School District 49 Student Success Center at corner of Carefree and Peterson. It's the gymnasium there, so we got big space. Plenty of rooms, but we know some people out of habit, they know where that center is that they used 2 years ago or 4 years ago, so we retain that, but we've added another location that is larger, just about 3/4 of a mile from there for people to utilize so that you won't be in line, hopefully. Yeah. All right.
Anything else? Seeing none, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. On to commissioner comments. Commissioner Bremer.
I have nothing to add today, thank you.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Just one quick item. I'll be participating in the Action 22 conference in Pueblo this Thursday afternoon and Friday morning. Other than that, just make sure you exercise your right to vote. It's so important to do it. Thank you.
Commissioner Williams.
I have nothing to report today.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Please vote. Thank you.
All right, and I'd just like to wish the President and everybody in the White House speedy recoveries from their bouts with COVID-19. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is community service organization reports.
Do you have any community service organization reports today? Seeing none, item number 7.
Item number 7 is a consent calendar. That would be inclusive of items 7A through N5. Is there any member of the public that would like to address a matter on the consent calendar, please? That's 7A through N5.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address a matter on the consent calendar? All right, seeing none, before we get to a motion, I just want to highlight two things. Item number C, I want to say congratulations to my friend Sarah Jack for being appointed to the Citizen Outreach Group. Excited to have her be a part of that group, and I know she's going to be value added there. And also on item 7L, we have the Regional Building Department's budget on for approval today. I can tell you as the Commissioner Liaison, as one of the building commissioners, they have put together an absolutely outstanding budget, and I just want to highlight they are one of the, in no offense to any of the other departments or organizations, but one of the best run and in the best financial shape of any of the other entities we have in our local community. So great budget, and congratulations on being able to put that together. Great work by Ryan Johansson and the whole crew there. So with that, could I have a motion, please?
Move to approve item 7A through 7 and 5.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. So with that, I will call the roll. Commissioner Bremer.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes unanimously. Item number 8.
Item number 8, proclamation recognizing Inspire Day in El Paso County. Cami Bremer, Commissioner, Board of County Commissioners.
Commissioner Bremer.
Thank you. I would like to move approval of the following proclamation recognizing I Inspire Day in El Paso County. Whereas the Board of El Paso County Commissioners welcomes the Minority Overrepresentation Subcommittee of the 4th Judicial District Juvenile Best Practices Committee and the Educating Children of Color Summit to present I Inspire Awards to 6 inspirational young people residing in the Pikes Peak region. And whereas Devon Brown has overcome adversity and inspired others to do the same by landing on his feet after facing poverty and homelessness. He committed to a 5th year of high school so that he can earn his diploma, then was accepted to college. In addition to his academic pursuits, he also cares for his siblings. Devon's circumstances would be very different without his sense of determination and his joy for life. And whereas Diego Carabello has overcome adversity and inspired others to do the same by successfully relocating to the United States without his parents. He is a role model in the classroom, works hard on academics, and translates for his peers who do not speak fluent English. He says he works so hard to make his parents proud. And whereas Jamar Gonzalez has overcome adversity and inspired others to do the same by turning his life around after becoming involved in gangs, juvenile delinquency, and the child welfare system. Instead of letting his challenges define who he is, he attends school regularly, works hard at school and at his job, and helps his friends when they are struggling. Jamar has not had an easy life, but he always takes the high road, not letting setbacks become excuses. And whereas Izzy Rose Manuel has overcome adversity and inspired others to do the same by triumphing over challenges posed by growing up in the child welfare and juvenile delinquency systems. Izzy has accepted help and advocated for herself. She will graduate from high school this year, volunteers at a camp every summer, is set to work at the camp this year as a counselor, and is involved in school choir. Izzy is a leader who exemplifies what it means to overcome hardship. And whereas Alicia Jensen has overcome adversity and inspired others to do the same by flourishing despite family struggles. In addition to moving to a new city and healing from her trauma, she has participated in Communities That Care, a program promoting healthy youth development and outcomes. Alicia is a passionate, strong, intelligent, and gifted advocate and leader. And whereas Joey Littleton has overcome adversity and inspired others to do the same by thriving after multiple years and placements in the child welfare system. After emancipating at the age of 19, Joey has successfully been living on his own. He advocates for and inspires youth placed in foster care through his filmmaking. His recently released short film, Musical Chairs, addresses the importance of identity. Joey hopes the film will inspire youth placed in foster care to take back the pen and become authors of their own stories. Now therefore, the Board of El Paso County Commissioners hereby recognizes October 6, 2020 as I Inspire Day in El Paso County, Colorado, in honor of the I Inspire Award recipients named above, who have overcome adversity and inspired others to do the same. Done this 6th day of October 2020 at Colorado Springs, Colorado. The Board of County Commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, Mark Waller, Chair, Lojinos Gonzalez, Vice Chair, Cami Bremer, Stan Vanderwerth, and Holly Williams, members, and attested to by Chuck Berman.
Second.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion? And do we have any of the, I assume we don't have any of the I Inspire recipients here today for safety-related purposes. All right, come on down.
Good morning. My name is Kara Nord, and I'm here today representing the Educating Children of Color Summit, as well as the Minority Overrepresentation Committee. Thank you all for signing this proclamation and recognizing this year's honorees. I see many familiar faces. This is the 3rd year that we've done I Inspire Awards with the Board of County Commissioners, so thank you very much. The Educating Children of Color Summit and the Minority Overrepresentation Committee created these awards to recognize youth that might otherwise not be recognized. We're not necessarily looking for the high school quarterback or the class valedictorian or the head cheerleader, but rather youth who have overcome adversity in their lives and inspired others to do the same, as indicated in the proclamation. And this year's honorees, Davon, Diego, Jamar, Izzy, Alicia, and Joey have done exactly that. They have overcome so many adversities in their young lives: poverty, homelessness, involvement in child welfare systems, as well as delinquency systems, separation from their parents. And they have inspired others to overcome the adversities in their lives by graduating from high school, gaining acceptances to college, engaging in public service, and even making a film inspiring foster children to write their own stories. For these and many other reasons, they have been dubbed self-advocates, public servants, role models, high road takers, and leaders. For these and many other reasons, the Minority Overrepresentation Committee and the Educating Children of Color Summit honor them, and we thank you, the El Paso County Board of Commissioners, for recognizing them again this year as you've had 2 years prior. Just to let you know, we are going to have a web-based presentation to the youth that's going to occur on October 14th at 11. I can forward the link to probably my friend up in the rafters, and she can forward it on to everybody, Miss Sosa. So everyone is more than welcome to attend. We're going to have pictures of the youth there. They're going to receive the framed copies of the proclamation, as well as $100 cash, which they've been pretty excited about in the past. So thank you for recognizing them. Thank you for having us back again this year.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd like to just say thank you for coming down here and talking about these outstanding young people. I'm just thrilled that we're doing this. It's great to recognize people that have struggles in their lives and overcome them. And you know, every person does have struggles. Some have bigger ones, some have smaller ones. But this is part of being a person. This is part of being human, is to see these struggles, face them, and overcome them, and that's what these people have done. I'm really proud of them. So to Devon, Diego, Jamar, Izzy, Alicia, and Joey, congratulations. And always remember, the only way you lose is when you give up. Never give up. Keep going, because you're going to have success in your life. Thank you.
Anybody else? Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too wanted to thank all the great work that's being done as a teacher myself, before I got elected, it's just always pleased to see these great stories, and I want to congratulate the awardees. These are inspiring stories, and what's important and why we highlight this is that this can help inspire more and more students to achieve, because that achievement is possible in all people. Thank you.
And I should have asked, is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on this proclamation? All right, seeing none. Any final thoughts, Commissioner Bremer?
You know I have some. To Devon, Diego, Jamar, Izzy, Alicia, and Joey, your stories are inspiring me, and I'm going to read it one more time. You're getting this award because you've overcome adversity and inspired others to do the same. And right now in our community, we're talking an awful lot about resiliency, and an awful lot of adults and people who haven't necessarily overcome what you all have in your young, short lives are struggling with resiliency, and I can tell you that you have it. You have it in you, and it is inspiring. So continue working hard, doing what you're doing, and realize that you have a light that is shining, and we want to encourage you to keep that light shining, and congratulations.
All right. Did we get a second? Okay, so with that, we will call the roll. Commissioner Bremer.
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. That passes unanimously. Item number 9.
Item number 9 is a called-up consent calendar. There are no items on the called-up consent calendar.
Item number 10.
Item number 10, public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. Is there any member of the public that would like to address a matter that is not on the agenda, please?
If you'd like to speak on a matter that's not on the agenda, please make your way down, state your name, and then you may begin. We limit public comment to 3 minutes.
Deborah Stout-Meininger, Community Advocate, Citizen Scientist. Today I want to cover some terminology that applies to what's happening to the public at large, given what's been going on with the COVID virus and the fact that we have what I would call political doctors who are not practicing good science. They're practicing a science of semantics and lies by omission, telling the public that the only thing that they can think of that will help them is a vaccine. Without that, we're all dead and dying unless we run around for the next 10 years with masks and social distancing and closing down businesses. That's not okay. And then for them to lie about it, the fact that it's there, that it's available, that for some strange reason in Congress, there seems to be Republicans who get sick, but not very many Democrats. And the fact that one of those Democrats made a statement to Trump back in October of 2019 that the United States, he was bragging about it, that the United States did not have enough equipment at all in the Federal Reserves to fight another pandemic. Now, why should that person bring that up to the president? It sounded like he was bragging about it. When there was things like the ventilators that were already 10 years overdue. They were 10 years expired in our Federal Reserves. 3 years into Trump's administration, the current administration. Why was that? Was that the current administration fault or the previous one? Seems like the previous one's bragging about it. And that's pretty sad. And then to lie about the medications that are available. and not allow the public to have access to them. Every time I hear Nancy Pelosi say, oh, don't listen to Trump, he's just senile, he's just incompetent. That's a lie. That's a lie. Lies by omission and lies by semantics. And that makes me angry that we have had so many people die because of those lies of omission, and that our social media is taking part of this. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. By banning the doctors who wanted to give some of that information to the public to make it available to them, shame on them. That comes under the category of gross negligence manslaughter. That means you don't have to do something illegal to do it.
Thank you.
People are dying because of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to speak on a matter that's not on the agenda? Please come forward, state your name, and then you may begin.
Hi, my name is Joshua Bunnell. Me and my wife are vendors at the Colorado Springs Flea Market.
Can you please step to the microphone?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We're vendors at the Colorado Springs Flea Market. We just started this in January. So when COVID happened, it pretty much put us down. We're still trying really hard. I'm also a carpenter by trade, but that's not really working out too well for me. Mr. Vanderwerf came out and met with me. I'd like to thank him for doing that. It was real nice to.
Again, I'm sorry, can you please get to the microphone there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So we record this and it gets broadcast out, and so it's just real hard for people to hear if you're not standing next to the microphone.
Sure. Thanks. As you may know, Mr. Waller, District 2 is where the flea market is at. That is your district. Mr. Vanderwerf, I'd like to thank him for coming out and speaking with us. It was definitely a good opportunity for us to explain to him some of the problems that we're having at the Colorado Springs Flea Market, and how revenues are not coming in anymore. People I know afraid to come out. Maybe they don't have money. I don't really know. But I came to thank Mr. Vanderwerf for coming, and I just want to make sure that we don't get forgot about. I do plan on coming back when I have more information. And I would also like to thank Mr. Lawrence Martinez for bringing to Mr. Vanderwerf's attention the problems that we're having. It's definitely a dire situation out there for the public. I mean, there's 60 small businesses basically running within that market, and none of us are doing very well. So I'd just like to bring that to your guys' attention. Thank you for your time.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to thank you for coming, and I have not had an opportunity to share this with you yet, but I've been doing some research, since the visit, and there are some people that we need to get connected between the manager of the flea market and some folks in town, and one of those is our tourism director, and then also there with the current status that we have from the governor, there are opportunities for our local health department to increase, particularly for outside venues, to increase the numbers of allowable people to come. I think that actually would be really important to maybe try to get a variance request, from the flea market over to public health to do that, because what that'll do is that will allow for a greater level of participation in the venues that they're trying to bring to the flea market. They've tried to do a couple of car shows and things like that, and the idea behind that is they got a ton of open outdoor space, pretty safe as a result of that, but also bringing those events to the flea market means more people will have an opportunity to go into the flea market, and that's how that will help you. So there's actually a way to do a variance today that allows for larger venues at a place like a flea market, and we need to start a process of the flea market manager deciding if he wishes to do that and then going forward.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's great. Can I drop some cards off here for you guys?
Sure, but before you go, tell me, how long have you been a vendor at the flea market?
I just
Can you please, I'm sorry, the microphone.
I just started in January, sir.
Oh, this is your first year
This
there?
is brand new to me and my wife. And so, I mean, I don't have books for last year, of course. And we were doing very, very well right up until COVID. I mean, better than we've ever done. And then done. We're done. And I have a lot invested into it.
Sure. Yeah, I get it. I've spent a lot of time out there. My friend Randy Cloud owned the flea market for years and just sold it last year. So you probably hadn't had the chance to interact with him, but I've spent a lot of time there with him over the years. It's a great place to spend a Saturday afternoon. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunately a lot of small businesses have been hit hard.
Right.
By this COVID crisis, and we're trying every day to do everything we can to make sure we're doing all we're supposed to be doing to protect the public, while at the same time helping small business owners like yourself be successful, or at least getting out of your way and allowing you to be successful on your own.
Right. Yep. It's been really hard. So.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
Lawrence Martinez. First, I'd like to say go Chuck. To add on with Josh, I approached the flea market. I go out there. I saw the circumstances that they were working under, so I decided to start working with them. To let you know, Vanderwerf, we're already working with Jay. We're doing a video to present to the city and to the county to show exactly why this is a gem in our community, to let other people know we're there, the opportunities that are there, and how to work with them. So we are moving forward to get a hold of Doug and the others in the city to let them know. So we are moving forward. I'm here today to talk to you guys about the information that I passed out to you. We've been moving forward on a program to start to get information on the testing. We're not waiting for the health department to step in. We're taking this upon ourselves to do. We're funding this ourselves. We're manning this ourselves. It's called Saving American Lives, and I'm heading that committee. One of the things we need to do is allow people to understand that we are there to help them. So with this information, we're allowing them to know where they can go to get the free COVID test. We've already approached 50 of the largest stores here in Colorado Springs, including all the Walmarts, all the King Soopers, Home Depot, Lowe's, quite a few that we're giving this information to. It was incredible that only 3 managers out of these 50 places actually knew where there was free testing. So they're willing to work with us and willing to help us pass it along. We'll be working on this version in Spanish coming up this week and handing this out to the Spanish churches, the other churches, the African American churches. About 3 weeks ago, I met Kyle Upland. He's in charge of working with us for the COVID situation. He came from Washington. He lost his position there because he said it was political. He's a great guy, but I don't understand why we're using somebody who's only lived here a few weeks to understand our community, to understand our problems, to understand the political power and the structure here, to understand the community organizations he needs to work with. We're right around the corner from the flu season, and we know things are going to begin to tick up. When our great president gets the virus, we know we can all get it. So I'm hoping that they can move forward. Why they didn't use any of the Spanish-speaking employees or African-American employees at the health department, I don't know. I really don't. We need to be able to have somebody who already understands our community, not somebody who's going to learn how to handle this community. I've tried connecting with them, Commissioner Bremer, and I've been turned down every single time. It's time for them to understand. Their phrase is, they're your boss, you're not their boss. They're not moving forward with this. But that's okay, because we'll do it ourselves, just like you guys agree. The less political involvement from the government, the better. So we're going to step up and we're going to do this. They never even offered a mask, not even announced this to us to help us get the message out. But then, once again, we will do it. I will bring you updates on what we're doing and how we're doing it and the people that we're reaching. But maybe it's time for a change up in the health department. Maybe they need to be told who the boss is. Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to leave you with this, though. No sé tus, pero esto es un problema. I'm sure Mr. Gonzalez here can actually interpret that. So pretty much it means, I don't know about you, but we have a problem.
All right. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on a matter that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, item number 11, the Nikki Simmons Show.
Item number 11A, Individual Assistant Grants and Regional Business Relief Funds presentation. Nikki Simmons, County Controller, Financial Services, and Crystal Latier, Executive Director, Economic Development Department.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nikki Simmons, County Controller. I am glad that you recognize that it's the Nikki Show. No, I'm kidding. The first thing we want to do today is do a presentation for something we're really excited about, which is the Regional Business Relief Funds and the Individual Assistance Grants. So to start this off, actually, the Regional Business Relief Funds is the first portion of this. I'm going to hand it over to Crystal Latier, our Executive Director with Economic Development.
Good morning, Commissioners. Crystal Latier, El Paso County Economic Development. Thank you for the opportunity to present an update regarding the Regional Business Relief Fund this morning. As you know, the objective of this program was to provide grant assistance to our local businesses and nonprofits in the area that have been impacted by the COVID-19 economic disruption. We worked in partnership with Colorado Enterprise Fund to stand up a grant application that we presented to you all a few weeks back. As a reminder to that timeline, we opened that application process on August 12th. The application was open, and we did a very robust outreach program, particularly with the help of Colorado Enterprise Fund. It was important to us that folks in the targeted ownership category, women, minority, and veteran-owned businesses, knew about accessing this grant capital in our region. So we spent several weeks promoting the program. It closed on September 7th. We will make award announcements starting tomorrow and start distributing funds October 15th. This slide here, you will see the incredible response received for the program. Obviously, this was very bittersweet to our team. We were happy to have the ability to stand it up, but to see the extreme need that we still have in our region. We received over 1,045 applications, totaling more than $18 million in requests. We were happy that the targeted ownership representation was at 598 of those 1,000 applications, and you'll see those broken down below. As a reminder, the way the process works for this program was the initial application, collection, and submission was taken in by Colorado Enterprise Fund. Our team at El Paso County Economic Development helped construct that application as well as an evaluation rubric. The CEF team, Colorado Enterprise Fund, then used that evaluation rubric to do an initial score of all applications. And then the initial scores and materials came to what we are calling EDOC, the Economic Development Oversight Committee here at El Paso County. So of the total applications that were received by 5 p.m. on September 7th, as mentioned before, it was 1,045. CEF found that 166 applicants did not meet our application or program requirements. So the reasons that those 166 applicants were not moved forward to EDOC were one of the three listed above. They were missing the required or completed documentation, they did not meet the eligibility requirements, or their business was not in good standing to receive the federal funding. This means that a total of 879 applications were given a first-round score and presented to EDOC for further evaluation. As a reminder, that first evaluation included the factors on this slide. We looked at business size, years of operation, financial condition pre-COVID, the overall financial health the prior year, their loss of revenue due to COVID, the businesses or nonprofits' community impact, their ability to adapt and show resiliency during COVID, sustainability, and then the targeted ownership and location of the business within our region. EDOC had representation from 3 departments here at El Paso County: El Paso County Economic Development, the Financial Services Division, and the Strategic Initiatives Division. I would like to say a very, very big thank you to the members on that team. This is a very heavy lift, and they approached it with consistency and a true dedication to serve our community. So I want to say thank you to Jason Jacobson from the Financial Services Department, Brandon Wilson from the Strategic Initiatives Department, and Kayla Huddifer-Nelson from the Economic Development Department. We looked at those initial scores and then continued to evaluate by flagged items and looked at things such as were they able to demonstrate the true negative impact of COVID-19 on their business, able to verify through tax returns and other financial statements their 2019 revenue, their compliance with Secretary of State to be in good standing and IRS compliance, and also looked at their operation status and what they plan to use the grant funds for. It is our distinct pleasure to share with you today that EDOC is recommending 864 recipients of this fund. Of that, 484, or 56%, have self-identified within their targeted ownership categories, and the average grant amount is just over $16,000. With your support, we will be putting nearly $14 million in grant capital back into our community and helping with economic recovery in the region. As we move forward with this program and process, we wanted to highlight some additional services in addition to the grant capital that will be continuing on. All award recipients will be submitting an economic impact report to our department. We will continue to do the pulse check reporting overview, which we mentioned at our previous update. This is a pulse check every 90 days, and this is not just for grant recipients, but all who applied for the funding. Additionally, direct referrals have already been given for our local SBDC and the Pikes Peak Workforce Center to help with business support services. Of particular interest, all applicants awarded will receive entry into the Leading Edge, which is an 8-week strategic planning course for businesses. We're also happy to note that we are standing up a new series specifically for nonprofits in the region to help with technical capacity building and strategic planning, as that looks different under the nonprofit model. So before you will see a slide, a funding dashboard or overview. Again, very pleased to recommend today nearly $14 million going back into the community to 864 small businesses and nonprofits. You'll see the breakdown and representation there in front of you. Additionally, our department has had some great success with the 3 programs that we've stood up in response to COVID-19 and the economic development initiatives. And our department is working on a white paper to share out regarding the successes and lessons learned throughout that process. We will also be presenting at the annual NACID conference, the National Association for County, Community, and Economic Development. We've had a lot of interest and inquiry into this program. As you know, many local agencies across the nation are looking at how to support small business and nonprofit. But many, this is, I would say, the largest or most robust program I've seen across the nation. So I just wanted to say thank you for your continued support, your strategic leadership, and recognizing that helping small business helps so many other avenues in our community. And I will turn it over to Nikki to discuss the individual assistance grants.
So I'm really excited about the individual or the Regional Business Relief Fund grants. I think that's going to do an amazing thing for our community and our businesses and nonprofits. On the other side of it, we also identified that we had a gap in our community for funding directly to individuals to make sure that, for the regional business relief funds, we ensured that the businesses, or we tried to help ensure that the businesses could get through the downturn due to COVID. But we wanted to ensure we were doing the same thing directly to individuals. And so the best way that we could think of to accomplish this was to create a strategic partnership with Pikes Peak United Way, as we felt like they were uniquely suited and qualified to understand the needs of our community as they're the central collection agent with the 211 calls, and they already performed this function to begin with. So we knew that they would be the ones to help us identify where we could best use our CARES funding. And so we allocated right at about $1 million for direct assistance grants and utilized United Way to help us find the nonprofits who could best serve our community and get that money into the hands of the citizens that need it the most. And so if you'll indulge me before I get through the rest of the presentation, I would like to recognize Dan Davis, who's our county compliance officer. He has taken on this task for the county in monitoring all these grants and getting everything set up, something that's normally not in his job description. But as we all know, during 2020, everyone's job looks a little bit different this year. And he's done an amazing job at getting all of these going. And I'd like to invite Cindy Aubrey with Pikes Peak United Way to come up and speak to these. We also have Dina Hunt here from Pikes Peak United Way, and they've been amazing partners in ensuring we're doing the right thing for our community, which has always been our goal.
Ms. Aubrey.
Thank you, Nikki, and thank you, commissioners. Thank you for your service, especially at a time like this. Thank you for recognizing the need for not only small business, but these nonprofits who are going to help people with everything from medical assistance, rent assistance, utilities assistance, and unfortunately funeral expenses. It speaks to your heart and your intellect to recognize those tremendous needs. As I listened to the gentleman from the flea market, that is an example of the calls we are now getting at 211. No longer just families, seniors, single moms, and veterans, but business owners and people who have lost their jobs in retail, in the hospitality industry, who have no idea how to apply for SNAP, how to ask for help, who are ashamed to ask for help, but are now calling 211, just looking for enough money to get over that hump. So thank you so much to Nikki and certainly Amy Folsom for their rapid response and quick recognition of the need in the community and how to best serve. Thanks to Dina Hunt, one of my colleagues, who oversees the grant process, the traditional grant process at United Way, who quickly gathered up the volunteers because United Way staff does not select the grant recipients. We actually pull volunteers in from the community who are former executives, CFOs, CEOs, school principals who really take a lot of time to comb through the applications carefully. So a huge thanks to all of those people who exited their whatever they were doing, including work, to come and perform this task. We're very grateful. Thank you also to Commissioner Bremer, who continues to show up at all of our United Way events and support us. We think hopefully one of these days we'll unravel the mystery of United Way because people continue to ask us what we do. And really, this is COVID-19 was a time when United Way really stretched. But the team that we have, the board that we have, really demonstrated that they could get the job done. But I will tell you, I am so grateful to Amy Folsom and Nikki for continuing to work on building this relationship between El Paso County and United Way. It's critical as we serve this community just to know, for you all to know what we do and how we work. So thank you so very much for your service and for partnering with United Way on this very important project. Thank you.
So on the process for these individual assistance grants, we worked with United Way to open an application period August 5th. We closed those applications on August 24th. We allowed each nonprofit to apply for what they most saw as the need for individuals that they serve. And we were able to announce the awards the week of September 21st, and we began distributing the awards last week as we are getting executed subrecipient agreements back. The Pikes Peak United Way handled reaching out to all of their partners who do work in this area, the nonprofits in the area who do individual assistance. We did a joint El Paso County Pikes Peak United Way press release to ensure that we reached as many nonprofits as we could because the applications were not just limited to current partners of United Way. As Cindy spoke to, Pikes Peak United Way worked with potential applicants to ensure the fit into the program, and then they, including their staff, board members, and community volunteers, ranked each application for us. They did an incredibly thorough job. I was very impressed with the knowledge base that came forward from the ranked applications for us and the insight that they were able to give. Then they provided their final rankings and the recommendations on funding. And then El Paso County Financial Services staff performed risk assessments, ensured that there is impact to COVID-19. We made final funding recommendations and drafted subrecipient agreements in conjunction with the county attorney's office. And then we sent the official award or denial letters. And financial services staff will continue to monitor these grants through December 30th to ensure we have all of the funding spent, and all of the funding is spent on things that are related to COVID-19. Each of these grants, even though they're individual assistance, each person being helped has to prove their impact from COVID-19, something like they actually had it themselves or a family member, or they lost their jobs during the economic downturn, something like that, in order to continue to receive this funding. So we're pleased to announce that these are the grants that we have through that $1.2 million allocation. The first one is Care and Share. This is actually one that we did directly with Care and Share, not administered through Pikes Peak United Way, for $200,000. For direct food assistance, Catholic Charities for $150,000, Centro de la Familia, $22,000, Color Springs Philharmonic, $20,000, Color Springs Teen Court for $30,000. CPCD, $50,000, Crossfire Ministries, $20,000. This one was interesting. They're not giving direct money assistance, but are buying toiletries and necessity distributions to ensure that they get the actual materials out to the community. Fostering Hope, $8,545 for direct assistance for a couple specific foster families that were impacted by COVID-19. Grescio Housing for $20,000. Family Promise, $105,000. Lutheran Social Services, $13,000. Manitou Art Center, specific to artists, same rent, utility, mortgage assistance for $12,500. Mount Carmel, $50,000. Multiple Sclerosis Society, $12,840. Newborn Hope for $15,000. Partners in Housing, $90,000. Peak Military Care, $50,000. Salvation Army, $50,000. Silver Key for $100,000. Tessa for $30,000, and Tri Lakes Cares for $30,000. And I read all those off, and I want to make sure that it's clear that these grants are not to support the nonprofit themselves. These grants are to get the money into the hands of the individuals. So while you might see varying amounts, it's not that one nonprofit deserves the money more than others. It is how much money those nonprofits felt like they could get out into the hands of the individuals to help them where the money's needed the most. So overall, from our budget, we still have about $121,000 of available funding. Right now, we have that still allocated in this same sort of program. We're working on another initiative with Pikes Peak United Way to possibly provide safe spaces for kids who are attending school virtually, who don't have somewhere to go, have some adult supervision while they're attending virtual school, as well as possibly increasing some of these grants if we see that the money is being spent down quicker than anticipated. We didn't want to give too much money to one nonprofit and not have the money spent by December 30th. It's crucial that that money is spent within the CARES deadline, but we also want to make sure they don't run out because they didn't ask for enough. So we're holding that, and we anticipate possibly having to increase some of these as Pikes Peak United Way continues to get calls of nonprofits being out of housing assistance money. So very excited about these two initiatives to ensure the resiliency of our community. So I'd be open to any questions for myself or Crystal. Thank you, Commissioners.
No questions? All right. Oh, Commissioner Brimmer.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say, on these slides, you boiled the process down to just a few bullets. And I know how many hours, how many people, how much tremendous work went into each of those bullet points for both processes, both getting out to the small businesses and the nonprofits. I applaud everybody, whether you're standing here in front of us today and kind of the face of it, or we're working behind the scenes. I know there were a tremendous number of people willing to jump in and help with this. So thank you for getting it done, and thank you for continuing to ensure that the CARES Act funding is spent not just on time as you referenced, but within the parameters of what it's supposed to be used for. And I know putting those guardrails up to protect that has a lot of behind the scenes work. So we appreciate it, and I am sure that all of these agencies and all of these businesses greatly appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Anything else? Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I too just wanted to thank you for all the great work here. With the CARES Act funds, this is where I really, I know you heard me for several months, really wanted to make sure that these dollars got out quickly and efficiently so that we are able to support those people in need and our small businesses for the community, because they are the backbone of our community. And I just really thank you again for getting these dollars out. Very valuable, and they were very needed for this community. And so thank you again.
Commissioner Williams.
I just wanted to echo my thanks as well between our amazing staff, as well as our nonprofits and many community organizations. We are a resilient community. We are making this work, I think, better than any other community in the state. And it gives me a lot of pride to say that about how much we're trying to help the individual businesses through this crisis. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next
would be item 11B, update on El Paso County CARES distribution and budget. Nikki Simmons.
Hey, Commissioners. I have a very short presentation for you today on the status of our CARES funding. Obviously, we just went through a lengthy presentation on how we're spending quite a bit of it, but wanted to give an update. So the budget isn't changing as much these days as it was early on, as obviously we're getting towards the end of the budget period, the grant period, but wanted to point out a few items to fully that changed in the budget since the last time we talked. So obviously, we initially set aside $7.6 million for these regional business relief funds. In a previous update, we increased that to 12.6, hoping that we could fully fund the program. And then in order to fully fund the program, we actually ended up having to do a little over $1.4 million more to bring that total to the funding that Crystal talked about this morning. Community services, we are actually removing the Paint Mines project from CARES funding. And the reason for that has to do with oversight from the U.S. Treasury, having to work with the historical nature of the project. We were going to have the two agencies coordinate, and it was going to take longer than we would have to spend the CARES funding. So while it was absolutely an allowable project, we're going to remove that, fund it from general fund, and then fund some of our other waitlist programs that we had. Which actually allowed us to fund more of the economic development side. And then a minor addition for the treasurer, for the coroner, I apologize, for a tissue embedding system. And then we increased the allocation to public health department by $100,000 to ensure proper communications and a robust communication plan regarding testing gets out into the community as we head into this fall and winter. So those are the overall changes. And then a revised chart. And as you can see, I think something we're all pretty proud of, that orange slice, economic and workforce development, almost $22 million of our CARES allocation has been spent on ensuring the resiliency of our community. So wanted to provide this updated chart to you and talk about the progress of the projects we're doing. So as of September 30th, we're still closing the month of September, so these are approximate numbers, but we expended about $73.9 million of the $125.7 million budget. This includes a disbursement of $41.3 million to the municipalities, which the Board of County Commissioners shared with each entity. The next large disbursements, which are not included in the above numbers, are the $13.8 million of regional business relief funds that we just spoke about, $1.2 million in individual assistance grants, and those disbursements started last week. And then the other major large projects we have remaining, elections, obviously, we're still creeping up on election day, so still spending that money. The COVID testing site has been operational since August, but none of the invoices have gotten to the county yet. So we are still paying for that, and that's a joint project between the state, the city of Colorado Springs, and El Paso County. Our facilities projects, the shared workspace and social distancing projects, are all expected to be completed by December 30th. The jail renovations and the sheriff's projects are approximately 30% complete and will be substantially completed by December 30th, as well as we have ordered a PPE cache, and that is expected to be delivered and on site by December 30th. So we are still 100% on track to expend all of our funds as necessary according to the CARES deadlines. So I would be open to any questions on CARES.
Any questions on CARES Act funding and how it was being spent? I just want to highlight, I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday on our meeting, but figuring out how to best utilize roughly $130 million in a short time frame it seems like it'd be super easy to do, but an incredibly difficult task. I mean, it was so difficult that we actually thought about reaching out to a company to help us figure out how to equitably distribute that money throughout our region and throughout our community. And at the end of the day, because they wanted so much money to do that, it amazed me that it costs so much money to have somebody help us spend money. We decided to do that on our own. Very difficult task that was undertook by Ms. Simmons and Crystal Latier to make all of this happen. So I just want to have public acknowledgement for all of the hard work that Nikki put into this, that Sherry Cassidy put into it, and that Crystal Latier put into it. And I think at the end of the day, this was money that was given to us by the federal government to help us overcome a lot of the issues associated with this crisis. And I feel confident knowing that we did our very best to put it into the places in our community where it's going to create the most value for us moving forward. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge you and thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that, Commissioner. Thank you. But I also want to, I think you pointed out that we have the staff that are, you see my face up here talking to you, but the staff that we have worked tirelessly on jobs that we never anticipated would be their job this year. And they've been just completely taken off what they normally do. And so several people in the budget and finance area, for me, have just stepped up, procurement as well. And I know Crystal's team has just been inundated with work, but everyone seems happy to do it because we know that we're doing the right thing for our community, and everybody's willing to just step in and do what they need to do. So we appreciate your comments, Commissioner.
All right, anything else for Nikki on CARES Act funding? All right, on to item number C.
Item number C is a 2021 budget hearing number 1, statutory presentation of the 2021 preliminary balanced budget. Nikki Simmons.
All right, normally I would wait until, can we hold on to that for just a minute? I'm getting feedback from some of my colleagues here that it is time for a comfort break. So we are going to stand in a recess for 5 minutes for a comfort break. Look up. The meeting will come back to order. All right, now on to item 11C.
I think I read it.
Yep.
I think so. All right. Good morning again, Commissioners. Nikki Simmons, County Controller. Really excited to come to you today to present the preliminary balanced budget for 2021. And before I get started, I just want to point out that this is a much better situation than any of us thought that we were going to be in when we started looking at COVID, March, April, May, projecting for a severe economic downturn, reductions in county taxes. I was concerned about monitoring for a possible Tabor ratchet effect with some sort of V-shaped recovery. And our revenue collections have continued to come in much better and closer to budget than we anticipated. So this is a much better story that I'm about to tell than I thought that I was going to be here telling you 5 months ago. So today I'll walk you through what the budget process is. We'll go through the 2021 preliminary balanced budget for revenues and expenditures. And at the end, we'll actually go through the actual budget document. So revenue growth population growth, excuse me, is up about 1.9% for 2021 projections. These numbers come from the Department of Local Affairs Demographer's Office. And going into 2021, and obviously this might change a little bit when we get our census completed, so we anticipate these numbers to be revised one way or the other, up or down, I don't know. But going into 2021 and forward, the State Department of Local Affairs expects El Paso County to become the most populous county in Colorado and stay that way into perpetuity. We've kind of gone up and down with Denver County the last few years as they built out some areas, but now with that kind of being enclosed and built out, we anticipate El Paso County will continue to grow, and we are seeing that kind of come to fruition with an influx of population as well as construction growth. One thing we look at when we look at how we do the budget is the overall discretionary cost per citizen. And this is the amount of money that each citizen pays to have a county government each year. And so with this one, it's about $177, which is similar to the 2019 levels. As you can see, it has not grown very much over when you look at 2008 compared to 2021. Pretty flat budget, which is, I think, something we're happy with. We do more with less is what we try to say, and we haven't seen our budget per person grow, so we grow with population and do the best we can with the funds that we have. So when compiling the 2021 budget, the very first thing we do is we budget for restricted funds, and those are the funds that the entirety of the fund or most of the fund is funded with restricted funds. Those are your road and bridge escrow, which is the share back to each municipality through our mill levy for road and bridge, the conservation trust fund, which is funded through GOCO lottery funds, the household hazardous waste fund, your school's trust fund, and the local improvement districts, which currently is just your Falcon Vista district. The next portion is budgeting for the partially restricted funds, and these are the funds that have a significant amount of restricted revenues in them, but also are funded with sales tax and or property taxes or other unrestricted funds to ensure full funding of the expenditures in it. The Community Investment Fund, we have ensured proper funding for all of your certificates of participation and capital leases to meet our minimum payments for the year. Your self-insurance fund, this is the health and risk side. We work very, very closely with our consultants to ensure that we know the trends in medical expenses, workers' compensation expenses, and other items moving forward. We make sure that we have budgeting for claims which are incurred but not reported. Just because we have the claim this year but we might not pay it out for a year or so, we have to fully fund that in the year that the claim happened. And so we do that, and we work very closely with actuaries to get that done. Then the the health side, we have passed on a minor increase of 5% of premiums to employees, and the county is covering the remainder of the increase. And this is decided at the Health Plan Trust Board. We met twice this year, went through possible changes to the plan, made changes to the plan. I'm happy to announce that we actually were able to keep our health insurance costs quite low by making strategic changes to the plan, which didn't reduce the benefits, but we're able to keep the costs in line. And then we look at the Department of Human Services. This one's an interesting one because we have what our state fiscal year allocations for the 2020-2021 year are, and then we estimate out the allocations for 2021/2022 because those are done on a state fiscal year, not on the county's calendar year. And we have increased the county match by $300,000 for Human Services to ensure that we meet the statutory county match for those programs. Our Road and Bridge Fund is on a multi-year plan to address the backlog of road infrastructure. This is a priority for, I think, the whole county, the Budget Office, the Board of County Commissioners, and County Administration. In this preliminary balanced budget, there is an additional funds of $905,000 going to increase the ongoing roads infrastructure, which is $750,000 more than when we planned on doing when we finalized the roadmap back when we did this process in 2019 for the 2020 budget. Then we move on to the general fund, the unrestricted side. And the first thing we look at is sales and use tax projections, as that is the primary portion of the county's revenue. We're a little over 60% funded by sales taxes. This is where that good news I was talking about earlier comes in. We were concerned that these would be down significantly due to the economic disruption from COVID-19. Through July, as I presented to you last week, we're actually up 7.1% over 2019 when we budgeted to have a 4.5% increase. We don't expect that to stay at 7.17 for several reasons, but one of the primary portion of it is, and I know everyone is tired of me saying these words, but the Third Party Marketplace Facilitator Act, we already had that in place last October through December, and so one of the reasons we're up 7.17% is those internet sales taxes, but since they were already in the base for those last 3 months of last year, we anticipate the 7.17% year to date to start kind of notching down over the next few months. But I'll be honest that every month I'm a little surprised by the results, so we'll see what the results we get, but we won't know those numbers until December through February. So we're closely monitoring all of those things. Retail is up 16.3%, but that is where those online sales are going into. Food services is down 14%, which is less than the projections were. So it's less of a decrease. They anticipated the food services would be down 25 to 30% when we had restaurants closed, and now we have social distancing in restaurants. But our restaurants are actually doing a fairly decent job, or getting decent customers in, and the way that they're running their restaurants and how they've adapted. Wholesale trade is up 29%, and accommodations is down 47%. That's our hardest hit segment with our hotels and other accommodations and lack of tourism. So the average increase over the last 5 years is 7.26%. And for the 2020 budget and moving forward into future years, we are recommending a 4.5% increase as our estimate in the budget. So that leaves your 2021 sales and use tax preliminary budget at $123.8 million. So this is a chart that you can see that revenue continues to grow significantly. So in this, you have two things. One, increases just in prices, as well as increases in population, which leads to increases in spending. There's more stores, there's more people buying them. And so when you go back, I'm going to flip all the way back here, you can see this is the increase in population, but our sales tax numbers actually climb a little bit faster than that. And that's going to be due to the increases in prices and just overall discretionary spending. the second revenue item that we look at very closely is our property taxes. And we're in sort of a unique situation with our property taxes going into 2021. As you recall, into last year, we had a significant temporary mill levy reduction due to being over our Tabor limit just in the property tax calculation. And that comes from the reassessment years being every 2 years, but Tabor being an annual calculation. And so every 2 years we get 2 years worth of growth, but we really can only absorb 1 year of it within the Tabor calculation. And so we carried a temporary mill levy reduction into 2020 revenues, which is payable in 2020 assessments, which is payable in 2021. So we could increase our mill levy back to its original level. Well, we actually will still have a slight reduction because we weren't able to capture the revenue, even over 2 years of Tabor allowable increases. The increase in valuation from the 2019 assessment is more than we could capture in 2 years worth of Tabor. So we are carrying a small reduction of 0.176 mils, which will equate to about $3.78 on a $300,000 house. And then we would be able to recapture that in 2022, but that will depend on numerous things. We're watching the Gallagher Amendment very closely, as well as the increase in actual valuations may cause another temporary mill levy reduction going into 2022. So right now I'm just going to focus on 2021, and we have 0.176 mils as a property tax temporary mill levy reduction, for which again $3.78 on a $300,000 house. In addition to that, as you recall,
hold on for just a sec, Commissioner Williams.
Sorry, I may have a question, I may have a comment. So I really am proud of how we run our county government. And this mill levy, last year it was at 7.1 mils. I saw quite a lengthy discussion on Nextdoor over the weekend about how people's property taxes are going up. And what I'd like to suggest is, well, your taxes are going up, one, because your assessed value is going up, and you then, if you sell your house, you're making a lot of money on selling it, but two, at least where I live in School District 20, the amount we're paying on our taxes to the county is probably $100 on my house and $1,900 on, the different entities that are collecting mill levies. And so it was just an interesting discussion to watch on Nextdoor about the Gallagher Amendment and property taxes and, people who've moved from Texas. And I know Texas is primarily a property tax state. And to, hear people upset about the amount of property taxes we pay compared to some other states such as Texas and New York was really fascinating to watch.
Thank you, Commissioner. And later, when we actually go through the document, I have a kind of a cool little chart to show about where your property taxes go when you pay in. I think there's a common misperception that you pay $1,000 in property taxes to the county because our county treasurer collects it, but the primary portion of that is then distributed back out to municipalities and specifically school districts. And the amount that stays for the county budget is actually relatively small. So I'll show you. We'll talk to that chart when we get to the document. So in addition to this temporary mill levy reduction that I mentioned off of slide 10, as you'll recall, from our 2019 actual overall county revenues, not just the property taxes, we had an overage of $3.1 million, and that will be refunded on 2021 property tax statements, which is about 0.393 mils, which is about $8.43 on a $300,000 home. So net property tax revenue after the 2019 refund is $59.4 million.
And I'd just like to go back to that Tabor slide for just a second here. I've been thinking about this a lot over the last little while about kind of where we ended up as county government in all of this, where small business owners are, where, the average citizen on the street is. I'm proud. I'm very pleased that we are able to refund that $3.113 million to the citizens of El Paso County. You know, we were able to weather this storm much better than any of us have expected. In fact, I think all of the local governments across the region have weathered this storm much better than anybody expected would happen. And so I think, you know, when we have so many people out there struggling, you know, it's only a few bucks, but when you have so many people out there struggling right now, it's the right thing for government to do. It's the right thing for us to, you know, try to be creative, try to find ways to make sure we're paying our bills and show the citizens of El Paso County, the citizens that live in incorporated areas of El Paso County, within the jurisdictional limits of Colorado Springs, in particular, that government is willing to give some of that money back to show them that we're in this with you and we're in it for you, and we want to do the very best for our citizens. In fact, I'll tell you, I wish other local governments were taking the same approach we were, but unfortunately they're not.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I think we're very excited to be able to refund this. You know, we're tightening our belts a little bit along with the citizens that are experiencing the economic downturn, and so I think this is important to issue as a TABOR refund on next year's property tax bills. And our treasurer's office is going to have to get started working on that. So some complicated calculations that they do behind the scenes, and they do an awesome job every time we ask them to do a refund like this for us. So this is a chart that's actually a year old, and we apologize, but due to COVID-19, the 10 counties did not get together this year and do a book, and so these numbers wouldn't have changed very much, but the property tax per citizen, as you can see, El Paso County there in the middle at $74.64 a citizen, very, very low compared to all of the other top 10 counties in the state, something that we try very hard to keep low. And while I want to be clear that this isn't an apples for apples comparison, because you have to take into account the sales taxes as well, because we are funded by sales tax and property tax, and I don't want to be misleading in that this is our only taxes, but when we look at the property taxes, it is significantly low. And in fact, sometimes when we go to other you know, when we go to meetings with other counties and we say what our mill levy is, they're like, wait, did you really just say 7 points? You know, it's incredibly low, and something that we're proud of keeping there. So after we look at property and sales taxes, we look at every other revenue line, working in conjunction with the departments and offices to ensure that their revenue collections for the year were on budget. For the 2021 budget, the clerk and recorder fees we're anticipating will be up $750,000. Mr. Borman's office just continues to be very, very busy in collecting fees and registering vehicles, doing recording fees, things like that. The sheriff's fees are being reduced by $1.2 million over the 2020 budget. The primary portion of that, the largest portion of it, is about $950,000 due to the elimination of the work release program, but that comes with an offsetting reduction in expenditure, so it really was a true elimination of a program. And then obviously, as we continue to receive less interest earnings, we monitor that pretty closely. We're hopeful that the interest rates go back up next year as we kind of get out of this, not necessarily that we're in a recession, but this kind of slowdown that we're experiencing due to COVID. So the expenditure budgets for 2021, we start with the idea that your base budgets remain the same. So we work off this process where every department has a base budget, and for increases to it, we come to the county commissioners to request increases for what we call the critical need process. And so those critical needs were submitted by each department. We actually started this in early March. Those were due March 15th to the budget office. And then we all know right after that, things started changing for us. And so the needs are a little bit different than we thought in March, different priorities. But another thing that happened was, because we thought we might have this revenue decrease as we worked with state economists to project our revenues, We worked strategically with each department and office to return underspending, additional underspending to the general fund. And we kept those programs in place as we continued to see decreases that weren't nearly what we thought they were going to be. And so we have identified about $4 million in underspending that we've created through programs with the county, which we were able to do without any layoffs or furloughs or affecting ongoing staff. And so $4 million of that, as well as approximately $10 million of law enforcement costs, which were substantially dedicated to COVID-19 response, and we're able to utilize CARES funding. So with that, you'll see about $14 million in the beginning operational savings to the 2021 budget. Then what we did is we met with each department and elected official to go through their needs for the year. We held what we called budget strategy sessions, which looked, again, a little bit different this year. Usually we get in a big room and talk it out for 4 hours. Everything this year was held over Microsoft Teams. But they went really well. I think we have a great group of elected officials and executive directors who understand the mission and the vision of this county and ensuring that we're doing the best with the money that we have. Not everybody can get everything that we even need or want, but we do the right thing with the money, ensure that we kind of have a consensus with every elected official or director to make sure that we're not missing anything going into the plan. So we reevaluated all those critical needs due to increased service demands, population growth, any mandates that are coming down. And through the critical need process, when we have these critical need hearings here in a couple weeks, we'll ask each department to talk to you about those increased service demands and the mandated pressures on their departments. And then the other thing that we look at is investment in human capital management. So we are recommending, again, a 2% allocation for personnel budgets to be determined for pay increases as determined by elected officials and directors. And that is included in the 2021 preliminary balanced budget. As I mentioned earlier, we have increased the road infrastructure impact budget by $905,000, and I'll just slide to this slide because I think it shows it visually a little bit better. When we started this program, we back in 2016 actually, we put $2.3 million into it, and then we have been growing it every year since. The goal was to get to $16 million, and I know that's a number that needs to be reassessed, and we have backlog in our pavement program. But we want to ensure that we are funding roads to the highest level possible. And so for 2020, you can see that we were at $11.1 million. That became the base for 2021. We're anticipating adding another $905,000 to that level, plus the $3 million coming from one-time funds for a grant match, which is the same as this $1.5 million back from 2018. And I'll get to that in detail when we get to the actual roadmap itself. And then as you can see for 2022 and forward, we get to $15 million this year and then $16 million in total for 2023. So then back to Tabor, we again are very preliminary numbers. You know, we're just going through August right now, so we still have 4 months of the year after. Well, things can change significantly, but right now we are anticipating a Tabor overage for 2020. Right now we're reserving about $3 million for that overage, and we'll closely monitor and keep this board updated as we see updates in that number. The things that can update the most are obviously where our sales tax ends up, as well as working with the Department of Human Services from the state side on what funding they pass to us to fund the DHS local programs. So the reserve strategy. This is something that I think this Board of County Commissioners has done an amazing job of ensuring that we have a reserve available for emergencies to appropriate. This has come in handy when we had to do emergency fixes on the parking garage, and we were able to replenish that money in 2019. With we are targeting $5 million as this amount. And to remind you, this is not our only reserves. We have other reserves that are below this. So we have approximately $13 million in our minimum fund balance policy, which is a calculation of 10% of our general fund sales tax, 0.5% of property tax, and 5% of all other revenues. And then we also have a 3% required TABOR reserve of about $8.2 million, which is not really accessible except for very limited items, which aren't really things that hopefully will happen. Even fires, floods, and COVID don't qualify. So the TABOR reserve is mandated for all governments in Colorado. So as we target $5 million for this, at the beginning of this year, we were at $3.025 million. Our proposal to the Board of County Commissioners is to fund this remaining $5 million, which is 1.975 with the sale of real estate. And there's nothing on this spreadsheet because, as I like to say, I don't like to count my chickens before they're hatched. And so we don't budget for properties to be sold until they actually sell. Well, I have great news, and obviously you're all aware that our Union property, the old health department at 301, 305 South Union, did close last Friday. So our proposal is to put the first $1.975 million of the sale from that property into this reserve, fully fund the emergency reserve, and then utilize the remaining one-time funding for other facility repairs and maintenance. And then we also, again, have another property currently under contract. So the 2020 to 2024 financial roadmap, this is the roadmap that the Board of County Commissioners approved in 2019. And the 2020 column became the original adopted budget additions for 2020, and then the 2021 through 2024 columns were the tentative plan to ensure that the consequences of our actions, the results didn't make future plans go negative, that we're looking at more than just 1 year when we look at our plans. So when we take that roadmap and roll it forward to 2021 to 2025, this is what that looks like. And I pointed out a couple things in blue that we have removed from the roadmap, and I'm going to go through these very quickly. I've mentioned the $14 million of beginning operational savings, the $905,000 increase to the high-impact road infrastructure over the $11.1 million that we've already added to their base, getting that to $12 million. I've mentioned already the 2% pay adjustment allocation. And we have a statutory pay increase for the Board of County Commissioners, as we will have 3 commissioners with new terms starting in 2021. The $750,000 for park capital improvements is included in the 2021 preliminary budget, with staffing for some of those improvements starting in 2023. The county attorney's office had a position being added in 2021, but we have deferred that to 2022 and working with Mrs. May to get her staffing at the right time. She has agreed to defer that for savings to the county. And then if you'll remember back to the 2020 budget process for facilities, we had a very large request, and we put that into 2 years. The $1.3 million is the remaining portion of that 2-year request. And then starting in 2022, we anticipate just funding and $750,000 ongoing to their base budget for major facility improvements. So the $1.3 million is identified to specific projects. There is $150,000 in the preliminary balance budget for a grant match program, which we are requesting the Financial Services Department do a central grant program and work with all the departments countywide to ensure that we're maximizing the use of grant funds.
Hang on. What was happening there, Blake?
That was my error, sorry.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
The $400,000 in this budget is the next-gen assessor treasurer system, and that is the final ongoing maintenance portion of a very large project that our IT department has been working on with our assessor and treasurer to get us off of what we call the VAX and get us into a software that will work a little bit better for those departments. The blue line you'll see for the ERP replacement. And so ERP is Enterprise Resource Planning Software. That's our, thanks Commissioner, that's our replacement for the J.D. Edwards system. And the J.D. Edwards system that we are on is approaching the end of its lifespan towards the end of the 2020s, probably 2027, 2028, and will no longer be supported by Oracle. And so, and that makes sense with how those softwares work. We've been on that software since 1999. And obviously it's not the same software as 1999. And Mr. Eckhart could explain this a little better than I can. But this is where we need to look at moving to a whole new platform. And we anticipate that'll be about $10 million. We're comfortable moving that to future roadmaps, looking at other creative funding strategies for that, such as capital leases or other one-time funds as we move forward into the years. Our Human Resources Department has funded their onboarding module, and this is the ongoing portion for $34,000 annually. The Public Health Department, this represents the second phase of the increased $1 million continued support that the Board of County Commissioners is advocating for. We've already increased their base budget by $200,000, and so over the next 3 years, we'll increase it by another $800,000 by 2023, getting into that $1 million annually over the levels that they had prior to 2018. Public Works Fleet, $400,000 one time for hydraulic lift replacements, and then $150,000 ongoing for light fleet replacements. As a reminder, this is the remaining portion of a request that they put in 2020, which was $600,000 annually for light fleet replacements. We ended up funding $450,000 in 2020 ongoing, so this is the remaining $150,000 to get to the $600,000 amount. And then, so those are all of the needs that were listed last year. And then in addition to that, we have new critical needs on the next page, which I'll go through in detail. Wanted to make sure that everybody watching, I know these commissioners have heard it from me several times, but this spreadsheet and the way that it works is these are rolling balances. So you'll see this $6.8 million is the beginning for this column over here for 2022. So when we look at doing funding decisions, there is not $6.8 million available. That we kind of want to look at the lowest of all of the numbers on this line to ensure that that's the funding that you have available. So right now it's $320,000 in 2025. So if you added a $320,000 expense somewhere, that would bring this roadmap to zero. And so as long as these numbers, this number by the $6.8 million by statute has to be positive because we have to present a balanced budget. And then if these should be, sustainable. Excuse me. Okay, so the new needs submitted for the 2021 budget, which weren't considered last year, that we have put funding in the 2021 budget. There is $3 million to fulfill our I-25 grant match program. And then Road and Bridge has requested 3 employees and setup costs for the 811 compliance program. $230,000 for a fleet management information system. $200,000 of that is a one-time expenditure and $30,000 ongoing. Also, $505,000 for the DEF stations and fuel island upgrades. So $500,000 one time and $5,000 ongoing, as well as $250,000 for ongoing right-of-way compliance for snow removal and ADA items. The District Attorney's Office has requested $1 million to replace the elevators in their building to get them up to current modern elevators, as well as 3 positions starting in 2021. And then we were able to defer the other 4 positions that they requested to start in 2024. Human Resources is requesting 1 FTE for an HR coordinator. Information technology is requesting about $170,000 for 3 items, all to do with the virtual workforce. As we know, we've sent our staffing home this year. A significant portion of our staff is working virtually from home, and we have to continue the infrastructure ongoing on that. And while the CARES funding that we received, allowable expense of that is to put the infrastructure in place to support a virtual workforce, that funding ends December 30th, and so this would be the funding needed to sustain those systems going into 2021 forward. And then retirement has requested an increase of from the overall 8% and 8% match to increasing that overall by 2.6%. And what we're working with them on is a phased funding plan to eventually get that up to that level to meet the actuarially required contributions. So for 2021, we're anticipating increasing that by $650,000. And as a reminder, these are your general fund dollars. And so that would actually increase the overall match by about $1 million when we draw down other restricted funds. And the final thing being funded in the 2021 preliminary balance budget is an increase of $1.5 million to the security office run by the sheriff's office. So those are all the monetary items included in the 2021 preliminary balance budget. Every time we meet, we ensure that everything that we're doing fits within the county's financial roadmap, the strategic plan, and making sure that the two tie. So we obviously always want to make sure that we're maintaining and promoting transparent and effective government, investing in our human capital, ensuring responsible use of all of our local tax dollars. So we consistently look at the strategic plan to ensure that the two marry up, because the financial roadmap and the strategic plan have to be in sync, and we ensure that it does. So moving forward into the next few weeks, we will have some budget hearings. So the hearings that we've already had, we had budget strategy sessions on August 19th and September 9th. And those were those Microsoft Teams meetings that I mentioned all day long with every elected official and executive director. Our budget hearing number 1, October 6th, the presentation of the preliminary balanced budget. That's why I'm here today. The next presentations will be on October 20th and 22nd, and that's when you will hear from each department and office, as well as I'll give you an updated revenue projection and 5-year forecast with any updates that we have by then, because by then we'll get 1 more month of sales tax, so we'll let you know how that goes. As well as you hear from your citizen outreach group, who we have charged with listening to us on a monthly basis about where our budget's at, what we're spending money on, and so you'll hear from them. November 17th is the BOCC direction on the 2021 budget, and that is when we'll pull up the spreadsheet and get head nods from each commissioner on additions or deletions to the roadmap that we've presented to you today. And then between November 17th and December 8th, our amazing budget team, headed by Lori Clayton, will put together the actual original adopted budget, the certification of the county's mill levy, as well as other resolutions to transfer funds, and come back to you with a completed package on December 8th for approval. At each of these hearings, we have the opportunity for citizen comment, and we invite that comment. We would love to hear from our citizens on our budget and any concerns, questions, or even just any comments that they have. These presentations are already loaded to the county's website, so they're out there for public inspection, and we would welcome any comments on them. So unless there's any questions on the presentation, I'll move forward into actually going through the budget itself.
Any questions on the presentation? Any comments on the presentation? She's going to go through the actual budget itself.
So, Commissioners, the second document I've given you is the actual 2021 preliminary balance budget. This is the PDF that we would actually submit to the state if it were the OAB. So going through this is a similar document that you see every year. We outline the preliminary revenue estimates, as well as this is how we get to the discretionary revenue to provide core services. The overall revenue sources are $393 million, but the primary portion of those are restricted restricted to places that the commissioners have no discretion on. The restricted voter public safety tax, the road and bridge escrow funds, other legally restricted sources, as well as you're required to do your local match for human services, your employee benefits and retirement. Those are taken out of the roadmap before you guys get to allocate funding. You'll see similar charts to the presentation. Then, as you can see, our overall revenues, $393 million. When we look at this, sales and use tax comes to about 30%, but when we look at just the general fund portion, that's a little over 60% of our discretionary revenue sources. As you can see, the county is significantly personnel-based, just about 60%. So this is a breakdown of just the general fund unrestricted portion. So you can see of the amount of money that we have discretion over, almost half of it goes into public safety. So your coroner, your DA, and sheriff. And then the BOCC and county administration, this 33%, we actually break that down further when we come to here. The administration for external services, $19.6 million, internal services, $26.9 million. As a reminder, this BOCC and county admin this year looks a little bit higher as we are proposing the $3 million match to the I-25 grant, and that is included in that number. And then we break those down even further, because I think when you look at administration on 2 slides prior, it seems like it's a very large number, but when you get down to that, it's not what you think of as typically county or administration costs. It's not, clerical people. It's your entire IT department. It's your entire public works general fund portion. Community services include your parks, planning and community development, financial services, facilities are all included in those numbers. This chart you have already seen, as well as these. Commissioner Williams, this is the chart I was talking to earlier that shows how the mill levy gets broken down. So in this example home, it's a $300,000 home, and then the assessment rate for the Gallagher ratio is 7.15%. So you're assessed on a valuation of $21,450. I believe they took a home in School District 11. So they used the mill levy for that specific home would be 68.126 mills overall for $1,461 of property taxes on a $300,000 home. Of those property taxes, the only portions that would come to El Paso County for our budgets is $157.14 for the general fund and $3.54 for the road and bridge fund. And then you can see the remaining portion goes to school districts, the library district. Over $1,100 of the $1,400 goes to school district 11. And that is a very typical ratio across our region as well as across the state of Colorado with the way that we fund schools locally. You've seen this reserve strategy already and these charts. And then I'm not going to go through detail in the rest of the charts. It's a lot of numbers. Give everyone some time to go through them if you want to. I'd be open for questions as from commissioners, staff, or citizens. But this is by fund, by department, where the revenues are, changes to the base budget. On page 19, I did want to point out where you'll see all these 2020 removal of the one-time AFRs. AFR stands for additional funding requests. Those removals are the removal of the one-time 27th pay period that happened in 2020. So we start with their 2020 original adopted budget, take out that 27th pay because it no longer exists in 2021, and then move forward with the increases that we've spoken to today. As you can see, there's increases into every or most departments, and that has to do with the 2% raise allocations that we've given, plus any other critical needs that were specifically identified. This will show you the revenue. This is at a glance. So if you're going to look at one page for what the county's overall budget is, this is the page. It'll show you all of the revenues, unrestricted, all the restricted, and then the expenditures the same way. These are the fund balances. And then the allocations of expenditures by major categories. So overall, that is your administration's proposal to you for the preliminary budget for 2020. And I'm really looking forward to an awesome budget process, and would be willing to hear any feedback or questions anybody has.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lots to absorb in the in the preliminary balanced budget, so I've got a lot to review before I make any, real detailed comments. But a couple things I just want to thank staff for all the hard work and effort going forward. I know this is takes up so much time, and probably the most important thing we do, I think, every year. A couple of things I did want to emphasize again. I'm very glad that this was 2020 was the second year in a row that the county returned Tabor excess dollars. A lot of people don't know that because you don't vote to approve that. We just let it happen. And so this is 2 years in a row that Tabor excess was returned by the county for residents, and this year, as was mentioned previously, very important, I think, with people in need because of the COVID situation and the downturn in the business and for all the residents and employees. And just looking at the budget, the only comment I'll make here is I think everybody knows how much I've emphasized our county roads. I do think those $3 million in the discretionary reserve one-time funds probably better in the local county roads. Thank you.
I have a comment.
Commissioner Williams.
So I was, I enjoyed the presentation about we put $3.54 per household into our roads. I was going to call Pioneer Sand and see how much gravel that would buy, because that's typically what many commissioners answer when people say, you got to fix my road. They say, well, where do you want me to dump your $3.54 of gravel? The question, is this budget based upon the fact that the Gallagher amendment might be defeated? Because then we would go down to maybe a 5.5 assessment rate or 5.7 assessment rate is what I've heard.
So Commissioner, this budget is based, so that won't affect our 2021 budget, correct? Mm-hmm. It'll affect 2022 and forward. Okay. And this budget is based on kind of the status quo. We are monitoring that very closely. There's a lot of nuances in that, in which I wouldn't anticipate us having to reduce our mill levy that far, even though the assessment ratio might go down. There's some other mitigating factors, so it's something we're monitoring very closely, but at this time, it's not something that's included in this budget.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I agree with my colleagues. Great presentation, and I know it was an enormous amount of work, so my thanks to the team for doing that. And, I've said this before in budget hearings, so I'll reiterate it here. I very much appreciate that the senior staff gets together in advance to coming to us and tries to iron out amongst themselves where they believe the priorities are. So the vast majority of those potential conflicts are essentially resolved before they come before this board. So I appreciate that deeply. I do have a couple of questions. I'll get those relayed to you. I'd like to formulate my thinking on the questions a little bit. And that'll give you an opportunity to provide a response, and then we can get that into public domain for the next hearing about the questions and the responses. I will mention one thing in particular. Local roads, and this is a comment that Commissioner Gonzalez made, so local roads are really important. It's what we're really responsible for. We've done a lot of investing, particularly in capitalization of the equipment, new snowplows, new salt trucks, new graders, and these kinds of things. Really important to do. That should get for us greater productivity, with our team. So I am interested in, it's not necessarily like directly a budget relationship, but it could relate to budget deliberations. Kind of now that we've got a lot of newer equipment, what's our productivity improvements? with that maybe caveated in the arena of, in this year we were able to repair and repave so many lane miles. We've got better equipment now, so we can repair and retain so many lane miles now in this next year, and then what's the strategy going forward, so that we can kind of get a sense of what that investment is doing, because the bottom line is, the vehicles are to increase efficiencies, but the bottom line is how many lane miles we're actually fixing. So I'm interested in getting a good understanding of that, and then the other questions I'll just pass along to you for deliberation at the next hearing. So thank you. And again, thanks to the staff for all that they're doing, because it's great to have so much of this figured out and resolved, and we know that there's agreement amongst the senior staff and the electeds going forward. So thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd like to echo your comments, especially of the senior staff and the elected officials. They make our meetings a priority, and they when we set one, I think everybody came to every one this year and made sure that they're engaged and involved in the county's budget. And I personally really appreciate the effort that each executive director and elected official puts forward into creating this budget.
Boy, and I'll tell you, after last year, I was concerned about how, the other countywide electeds were if they were going to be able to come together to be able to put a budget together, because I know there were some significant issues last year. So I'm really pleased to see that they decided to play a little nicer together than they did last year, or one in particular decided to finally play with the rest of them. So happy to see that. Happy to see that this budget is moving forward the way it is. And in particular, I'm happy to see that $3 million for the I-25 Gap project. I know we talk a lot about local roads. I know that happens, but the reality is our constituents drive on all the roads, not just the local roads. And this is, for us, been a $15 million investment on a $350 million project that is going to make transiting between Denver and Colorado Springs incredibly safer, much more safer than it has been in the past, which is a great thing, not only for our citizens, but for first responders as well. So I'm happy to see that, especially, as we continue to see more and more people who can't afford the metro area market, can't afford to live there, they're going to be living in El Paso County and working in the metro area, and so that just increases the need even more to have, to have safe roads for our constituents to transit. So I'm happy about that. Anything else? Commissioner Williams.
Yeah, I was just going to say on the 811 system, and I was just getting ready to text Mr. Cuthbertson, but the 811 system is something that this County Commissioners Incorporated, their statewide organization, is trying to get the legislature to make a little less onerous requirement on it, because it is a big requirement for our county. And I couldn't even explain what it is, but it's a big requirement for our county, but it's even harder for a rural county to manage that one. And so hopefully when Mr. Cuthbertson comes in, he can explain that just a little bit more, but we'll just keep pushing, and maybe the state legislature will make it easier to manage for us.
All right, seeing nothing else, excellent presentation. Thank you for all the work that you've put into this. Item number 12.
Number 12 is the addendum. There's no addendum.
13. Executive
session. There's no request for an executive.
We stand adjourned.
From that meeting.
Yeah. All right, we call to order the Public Improvement District Meeting number 1, Tuesday, October 6, 2020.
There's one item on that, the 2021 preliminary balanced budget for El Paso County Public Improvement District, Stratmore Valley, streetlights. Nikki Simmons, County Controller. The last time for today, Nikki.
Okay, Stratmore Valley Streetlight Public Improvement District. This is your preliminary balanced budget for Stratmore Valley Streetlight Public Improvement District. For 2021, we anticipate revenues of $29.6 or 29,600 for property taxes for total revenues of 33.6 thousand. Operating, we have increased that budget just a little bit to spend some of the fund balance on possible maintenance of the streetlights down there for overall expenditures of 32,974, leaving a fund balance of approximately $100,000.
All right, any questions on this public improvement district? Could I have a motion, please?
Oh, no motion.
I don't think we need to do it.
Oh.
Sorry. I think it's just for the first
informational?
reading and the presentation.
All right. So we'll stand adjourned from that public improvement district number 1. Call to order public improvement district number 2.
Oh, and sorry, I think I might have gotten confused because you read a Stratmore Valley thing, and I think you said PID 1, so I did what Mrs. May said.
I did. So now we're on the Stratmore Valley. The first one was the Pioneer Village.
All right.
Or did you? No, you
No,
did
I think
you did the
Commissioner Waller read in Pioneer or El Paso County number 1, and I did Stratmore Valley.
Number 2. So now we're on number 1,
Yes.
which would be the preliminary balanced budget for El Paso County Public Improvement District Pioneer Village roads.
No, number 1.
There we go.
Okay, I am
We're all
lost.
sorts of confused.
I'm sorry, Public Improvement District number 1.
Thank you.
I was just going to comment, 6 years and you still don't listen to Commissioner Waller.
It's something I try very hard on.
I'm doing them in order over here. I'm calling them to order correctly.
I was like, this is not the order my presentations are in. El Paso County Public Improvement District number 1, this is your PID that collects the impact fees as well as receives transfers from PID number 2 and PID 3 of the property taxes. So for 2021, we anticipate transfers from the 2 other PIDs for $975,000, $1.4 million of direct road impact fees for a total revenue of $2.38 million. And we anticipate dispersing all that revenue as well as a little bit more to disperse out the remaining fund balance from 2020 of $2.95 million, leaving an estimated fund balance of $79,000. We changed this year, if you remember earlier in the year, the way that we budget for this PID to disperse out current year revenues versus waiting a year and dispersing the entire previous year revenue at the beginning of the next year. We now disperse that as we get it and come to the board every quarter or so to disperse current year revenues, and that's working out really well for those credit holders in the PID.
All right. Any questions on Public Improvement District number 1, though we called number 2 to order?
Nope.
All right. And we've already covered, so we'll stand adjourned from that one. We've already covered number 2.
No.
When did we cover?
We covered the last one, so that was totally on me. So
Okay.
I'm going to go in the proper order this time. So we are now on Public Improvement District number 2.
All right. We'll call to order Public Improvement District number 2.
All right. Mrs. May, do you need to read something into the record?
Sure. Public 2021 preliminary balanced budget for El Paso Public Improvement District number 2, Nikki Simmons.
Awesome. PID 2 is your 10 mill levy PID, and we are anticipating property tax revenues of $870,000 and accompanying specific ownership tax for total revenues of $967,000, of which we would transfer $925,000 over to PID number 1, which you saw in the prior budget.
Any questions on Public Improvement District number 2? All right, we'll stand adjourned from that one. We'll call to order Public Improvement District number 3.
2021 preliminary balanced budget for El Paso County Public Improvement District number 3.
Commissioners, this is your 5 mill levy PID, where a portion of the fees are paid up front into PID 1, and then the 5 mill levy into PID 3. Total property tax revenue is estimated at $46,500, and then accompanying specific ownership tax and interest for total revenues of $51,753, of which we'll disperse $50,000 to PID 1 for total expenditures of $50,700.
Any questions about that one? All right, so I have one left. However, I think did we cover Pioneer Village? Okay. So we'll stand adjourned from Public Improvement District number 3 and call to order Pioneer Village Roads Public Improvement District meeting.
Okay, Commissioners.
2021 preliminary balanced budget for El Paso County Public Improvement District Pioneer Village. Nikki Simmons.
Thank you. Pioneer Village, Public Roads Improvement District, property taxes for this district, we're estimating at $42,902 for 2021, and accompanying specific ownership tax and interest for a total revenue of $47,352. Contractual obligations, the $47,000 for the road maintenance in that district, for total expenditures of $50,186, leaving fund balance of right at $678 estimated for 2021.
Okay, Commissioner Williams.
I'm going to test you. What's the mill levy for the Pioneer Village?
I'm not going to pass that test.
Okay.
I can get that back to you. I don't want to misspeak. I don't know.
I'll look it up.
But I can get it to you within a minute at the end of this meeting. I just don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay, I'll time you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? Any other Stump the Controller questions? All right, seeing none, we stand adjourned.